Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with a bunch of Halloween cards that are foiled and move and shaker, and I went just nuts. I was having so much fun. So the first thing I did was the foiling. So I'm using my Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil machine, and I have my die cut machine there as well. And I'm using this HYPNOTIC background Glimmer plate with gold Glimmer hot foil. And off camera, I'd actually, because this is these big plates I have struggled with, but Yana of Spellbinders was giving me some tips and tricks. One of which was put the plate on, do a timer cycle, shut off the machine, turn it back on, do a second timer cycle, sometimes up to 3. I found 2 was more than enough, and oh, look at the results. So you always put the plate on, press the timer. The foil, you want the pretty side of the foil facing the plate. Then your cardstock, your shims. It'll vary a bit depending on the machine you use, because there's a couple different ones on the market. But once the timer's done, I run it through my die cut machine, and it presses that foil into the background, and it is satisfying. So I did a bunch of backgrounds. I was doing solid cardstock ones. And then I was like, oh yeah, I remember I've done some foiling on recycled packaging. Again, you got to test this out because it can vary, but I've done videos in the past doing this. This is just packaging that like cardstock comes in, that sort of a thing, because I save it all. So I cut it down and did the exact same process. Sometimes you might need to add like a cardstock shim because it is so thin, but this worked perfectly. And again, just the satisfaction. So I did a couple pieces of this packaging because, there's usually a couple sides of it. And then once I had done all this, I of course have this little pile of used foil pieces. And this is also something, I don't even know if I've shown this on my channel. I have a solid hot foil plate. It's been around for a while. There's several options now out there on the market. I'll link to a couple of them. But the whole solid hot foil plate, I struggle with. But I followed Yana's instructions and I did the same thing. So I have that solid hot foil plate, and this is the second timer cycle. So it's just good and hot. Put the used pattern foil there. Again, the pretty side facing the plate, and then a piece of cardstock. Had the timer going, put my shims on top, and then I'm going to run this through my machine. Once I run it through, this will give me the negative impression of this hypnotic background. And it basically ends up being like a solid foiled image, which, again, the satisfaction. I ended up foiling all of those leftover pieces because everything was just working so well. It's just everything aligned for once, considering the amount of issues I usually have with just everything, tech issues and life and all that stuff. But look at that. Look at it. So all the extras, I just put back in the packaging with that plate. I'll save them for future projects because I still managed to make 6 cards with all these backgrounds and the new Halloween release from Spellbinders that it's so cute. So the first set is this haunted house die set. So I die cut just tons of scraps. Before I even started filming anything, I just pulled out just a pile of scraps. I've mentioned this in previous videos that I keep pretty much all the scraps now. I never used to, but now that I use them all up because they're, you got little wafer dies, little parts and pieces and different things, and I end up die cutting all of it. It just comes in so handy. So that's what I did. I just pulled out a pile of scraps and I just die cut, and I didn't stop. It was the same with the foiling. So I was just creating my little piles of die cuts. So I die cut the house itself from black cardstock. I die cut scraps of yellow cardstock, and then I showed there how I just backed the black die cut with just washi tape, and then inlaid those yellow pieces quick and easy. And then I'm building my little scene with all the different elements in this die set. And for some of the smaller pieces, I just use my reverse tweezers to hold on to them. I don't always do this, but it helps because, it's easier to kind of see where things are going without, your fingers getting in the way. So I just kept going along and building my little scene. I die cut, of course, a bunch of bats and the little ghosts in the set. Those, the eyes do, you could die cut them from like black cardstock, because they I don't know if it shows up on screen at the moment. But with these, because they were so tiny, I was like, I'm not going to bother doing separate pieces and inlaying them. I just took a black coat of marker, filled in those little eyes. Simple. You could also leave them, whatever works, or just pop them out. I've done that too. It just kind of depends on, what the look you're going for. So I'd done all that. And then off camera, I had foiled with the same gold foil a bunch of sentiments from the older Spooky Greetings Glimmer hot foil set, which I've used in previous Halloween videos. But I just foiled a whole bunch, all the sentiments from that set onto black cardstock, and then trim those down with some sentiment label wafer dies, and then adhered those into place with some foam squares. And then, of course, I'm going to add a little bit of extra. I'm using my Midas Touch Aqua Shimmer pen. So this has some gold glitter to it. And I'm just painting all the yellow pieces inside this haunted house. So there's going to be glitter, which I will show at the end of the video, of course, with my little flashlight so you guys can actually see it. Because right now it looks like I'm not doing anything. So that was card front 1 of 2, basically. And then this next one, I am using the DANCIN Ghost wafer die set. Spellbinders has come up with a bunch of these. And the funny thing was, I thought they'd be a lot more difficult. I was like, I watched one of Yana's videos because I was like, how do you make it work? Do I need a special something? It's so ridiculously easy, honestly. So I die cut the little ghost from white cardstock, the eyes from scraps of black cardstock, did the same thing, washi tape, inlaid the eyes. There's a couple little treat bag options. So I die cut and same thing, inlaid and all the fun little things. And then to make the legs move, they're a separate little wafer die, and it has this little circular hole. And all you got to do is pop a little foam square into it. That's it. It's so ridiculously simple. I love that. I've said this before. I'm kind of lazy, and I think maybe it's just I have too many kids and too many things on the brain. So I like things that are simple, and this definitely was. So I'd popped the foam square into place. So those legs, they're not really attached at all. They're just that little foam square in the middle of the circle keeps them there, and then they swing back and forth. It's so cute. So, and I'll show the next one, and it's the same idea, but there's also Christmas sets, and there's previously released sets. There's a gnome set even that I think I bought last year and haven't had a chance to use. Anyway, so much cute things. There's also a sentiment in this DANCIN Ghost die set that says, "Hey Boo." So I die cut that multiple times and I had stacked that with craft tacky glue, to give it that dimension. And again, used my reverse tweezers to hold it, adhered it all into place, and then added another hot foil sentiment because of course I needed to, and then play with it because that's the whole point. And then for the glitter on these ones, I'm using just my regular Aqua Shimmer pen. So this is the one with the more clear. I hate saying clear glitter because it's not actually clear, but it's clear iridescent, sort of silverish, kind of. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's not gold. That's So you need different colors for different things. So painted that onto the candy, the little eyes, and the sentiment. And then this final one, this is the DANCIN Mummy set, which is, again, adorable. It's so adorable. It didn't make sense at first. There's all these funny little die cuts that, the bandages, but when you look at the packaging, and it just comes together so easily. So I did the exact same thing. I backed the little openings there on the face with the washi tape, and then inlaid the little eyes and the little cheeks. Once those were in place, I started adhering the bandages, which I die cut from both white cardstock and a light gray cardstock, just to give it a little extra something. So I just went along and just adhered all of those into place with craft tacky glue. There's pieces that adhere to the little legs as well, so everything's got its little bandages. So this whole, outfit, again, everything just fits. It just works. So went along, adhered all of this. I had also done, like I said, seconds of all of these off camera. There was just no point showing me doing the same thing over and over again. So after I got all of the little pieces adhered to my little mummy. I layered on, there's extra little pieces that you layer on top here and there. Again, creates dimension. You could just do it all from the same color, but I was mixing and matching with the gray and the white cardstocks. It just gave it a little extra something. So once I have all of those adhered into place, for this card, I'm going to do the flat shaker cards. I'm going to use one of those pieces of packaging that I had hot foiled on. And then I just have a piece of purple cardstock. You could also just use like a regular background or a hot foil background and then the packaging just as is. You don't have to hot foil on it. I just love the fact that you can hot foil on the packaging. It's fun. And again, hopefully I'll remember to link. I have an entire playlist of flat shaker cards that I've done over the last year or two. Forget how long it's been. And I've got other ones where I've done the hot foiling on the packaging before creating the shaker card. So I taped it into place with the washi tape just because I wanted to get it centered because of this type of pattern. And then I flip this over and then I'm just applying a good strong adhesive to the edges of this cardstock. So I'm using score tape this time. I've also used red line tape. I prefer like what I call a dry adhesive like this versus using liquid, especially when you're working with plastic, because you just will have to take a lot longer to let things dry if you're using a liquid adhesive. And I just don't have the patience. This is fast. So sealed up 3 sides of this and then remove that little piece of washi tape. And then I've got to fill it. So I had just die cut, again, tiny little scraps, because as I was die cutting everything else, I would just keep running that little candy wafer die through because it die cuts 2 at a time. Die cut a bunch of scraps of those, stuck those in there. And then I also filled it with some like iridescent like confetti stuff. This specific one I don't think is available anymore, but I'll link to a similar one. So threw that in there as well, just for some extra shaker bits and noise and fun. And then flipped it back over, put that last remaining piece of adhesive in place, sealed it off. And then I trim off the corners. When you do this, there'll be little like pieces that are folded over that stick out past the cardstock, if that makes sense. So I just trim that off so it looks clean from the front. And then this comes together exactly like the previous one. You put a little foam dot in the center of that hole there at the top of the legs of that little die cut. And then some more little foam pieces, just making sure not to stick anything to the actual legs. So they're just hanging there on that little foam piece. And then press that into place. Isn't that cute? I love it. And so I did the same thing. This little paper bag, like Halloween paper bag, wafer die. There's an opening there in the top, which again is perfect. So I slipped some of the die cut candy pieces into there. And then I took another sentiment from that spooky greetings set that I had hot foiled and put some little thin foam strips onto that as well before popping that into place. So these ones say creep it real. You guys know me. I love my punny sentiments. And then I'll adhere one last little piece of candy to his hand. And then, of course, aqua shimmer pen. So I just painted a little bit onto the bandages and then painted it onto the candy pieces. And then once I was done with that one, like I always do, I did this with I did all my card fronts. Once they were done, I'm going to now do all the insides of the cards, which I kept fairly simple. I just used the Boo Dance Party Sentiments. This was created by Spellbinders to like go with these little sets, and there's some really cute little sentiments in there. So I took a couple for these mummy cards. So it says all wrapped up in you, happy Halloween. And then the little pumpkin is from the DANCIN Ghost set. I had die cut those because I wasn't sure what I was going to use with these cards, if I was going to use the pumpkin on the front, and I decided not to, so I used them on the inside. So I stamped the sentiments with VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink, and then I added that little spider because it's just cute. So that finished off all of these cards. They were so much fun. These foiled backgrounds and the fact that they like move and then some of them are shakers, just seriously. So yeah, as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post, and I will also link to all the supplies I used. Got the flashlight on to try and show the glitter. As always, my camera hates me when I'm doing, it's like, why? Between the foil and the glitter and all the things. Anyway, flat shakers, super fun. So I did the one with the mummy, one with the ghost, just cause. Got the glitter elements, the foil elements, all the fun things. So yeah, the mummy ones have that all wrapped up in you sentiment. And then inside the little ghost cards, I used a sentiment that said, I would never ghost you. Love it. And their little dancing legs. Again, love. A little sparkle on the candy, the eyes. I painted the sentiments with that aqua shimmer pen as well. I did that to both. Same thing with the other card. That one I turned into a flat shaker. So did the exact same process, stuck in the die cut little candy pieces, a little bit confetti, added the sentiment and that sentiment strip that had been hot foiled. And then, yeah, stamped the inside with sentiments from that Boo Dance party set. Added the little pumpkin. And then these haunted house ones. This is the one I showed on camera with the blue background and the foiled hypnotic background. Love. And then I've got the gold glitter on the windows, basically. Just chef's kiss. Like, highly recommend the aqua shimmer pens. They're fun. And then the inside is stamped with sentiments, and I stamped little stars from that set with some mustard seed distress oxide ink. And then this one I used the solid reverse piece of the foil. So it's like super foiled, like reflective. Love. So, like I mentioned earlier, I will link to my blog post. I'll link to all the supplies I used. You can just check that out in the description box below the video. And at the end, I'll link to my playlists. So you can check those out if you haven't seen any of them. And then, of course, thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting. I very much appreciate it. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.